In this video, we'll look at the basics of stats in grade 12, which is the scatter plot. And what you have there is two sets of information. Maybe it's your maths mark and your science mark. And so it's comparing two bits of information at the same time. And the main use that you are going to be using to input this data is pressing mode on your calculator and then stats. Most of grade 11 you chose option 1, which is 1 minus var for variance. In grade 12 you're going to be using the option 2, which is a plus bx. And what that gives you is the opportunity to put all of the x values and the corresponding y values. Once you've put all your values in, you'll press AC, which is quite scary because it clears everything. But then to use the information, you press Shift 1, and that will bring up options of what you might want to do. Typically, we'll be using option 5, which is regression. And you'll see there, if you're following what I'm saying now on your calculator, you'll see option 1 gives you A, option 2 gives you B. Your calculator could be a little bit different to mine, but option 3 gives you R. And when I press the A and the B, those will just be values that I can then put into this line of best fit, this least squares regression line. It's worded differently. And that will give you a straight line equation. So B is the gradient and A is like the y-intercept. You're typically, when you're plotting it, even if your line, imagine if the quadrants were continuing here, even if your straight line went over here, you're only really interested in the first quadrant because that's where the values are positive and, in a sense, in real life situations make sense. Let me jump to the bottom here where I talk about extrapolating, which is mathematically you might have worked something out, like you have minus 10 students coming for lessons today, but that doesn't make sense in the context of reality. And so sometimes you need to just look at your answer and just think, does this actually make sense for real life? Then the last main trick for this section of doing scatter plots and lines of best fit and that kind of thing is when you press the R option on your calculator, that gives you the correlation coefficient, and it will be somewhere between -1 and 1. Those are very strong correlations, and as it gets closer to 0, you would say there's a weak correlation. And so why is that helpful? If I have a correlation very close to 1, for example, it means my chances of predicting something are very accurate because most of the data was probably very, very, very close to the line of best fit that went through most of the data. And so companies can use a strong correlation coefficient to predict all sorts of things. So if you knew the correlation coefficient was 1 or 0.99 or something really strong, and you knew every maths exam paper I practice, I will go up 5% in my matric finals, then that would be amazing because you'd know, cool, let me just crack on and do 2 or 3 or 4, and I can predict exactly how my marks will go up. And likewise, it could be a negative one. The longer my wife has my credit card, the smaller my bank balance is. And so it can still be a strong correlation. It's just in a negative direction. And then if you see a visual picture and they give you the points and they're kind of doing something like this, you'd anticipate that your line of best fit is pretty weak correlation because there's no real trend. And so your answer might be something like 0.2, and you wouldn't really in real life want to be relying too much on that. I hope that was helpful just to whet your appetite and to show you the uses and skills of your calculator as it pertains to this section. If you did, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this with your friends. Thanks.